As a publisher, the reason why I see AI as a good thing is twofold. Number one, we have a philosophy at Advantage. We don't use AI to make books. We use AI to make books better.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Elizabeth Gore. Welcome to The Big Idea from Yahoo Finance, presented by Block Advisors, built by H&R Block. As a co-founder of the small business funding platform, Hello Alice, it has always been my mission to help entrepreneurs have the tools they need to succeed. So let's cowboy up. Today's big idea question is, how do you survive industry disruption? Our industry focus will be publishing. Joining me today to talk about this is Advantage, the Authority Company founder and CEO, Adam Witty. There's no one better to help answer today's big idea question. Let's talk to Adam. Adam, welcome to The Big Idea. You are the big idea. This is just perfect.
Elizabeth, excited to be here, and let's rock and roll.
We just figured out we met in what year was it?
2009.
2009. And I have this memory of meeting you and then wanting to learn how to write a book. And I had just bought a Ford Escort for $2,000. And I drove it, DC all the way to Charleston with the dog in the back just to come learn from you. And you were such an exceptional mentor. So I can't wait for all of our big idea listeners to learn from you today. And we'll just start with, you said you've won the lottery because you come from a line of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I just think the greatest gift that any parent could give a child is the confidence and the ability to dream and wonder and just go for, the biggest things that they want. And that doesn't mean that they'll succeed, but it does mean that you have parents that encourage you to dream big and go after it. And I was so lucky to have a set of parents that did just that.
Well, and now you're a dad. So is that your dream to distill that back to your children?
Absolutely. Listen, whether or not my kids become entrepreneurs, that's completely up to them. I am not going to push or direct them in any way, but I want to expose them to it. And whatever interests them, I'm going to encourage, love on them, support them, and just most importantly, give them confidence that they can be whatever they want to be and that they should dream really big dreams.
So Adam, as we talked about, you come from a long line of entrepreneurs. What's something that most people didn't learn early that you did?
Well, I don't know if I learned it early. It just may have been I learned it early the hard way by screwing up first. But I would tell you this, any business, any size, starting something, it is a team sport and it is all about working together. And you have to have and develop people skills to collaborate, to encourage, to motivate, to hold people accountable, but to really work together as a team. You're never going to achieve your dream if it's only you. You can't be the only one pulling the wagon. And so in order to motivate and inspire and engage people to pull the wagon with you, you've really got to develop your people and, really human interaction skills.
And now you give authors confidence. I mean, you own the most incredible publishing company, Advantage Media. First of all, tell us about the company.
Okay, so I did not grow up wanting to be in the publishing business. I don't think anybody does. And it was really fortuitous. It was luck for me. By happenstance, I had an opportunity to get a summer job when I was in high school. And that summer job was with a publishing company. Now, I grew up in Orlando, Florida, where it is really hot in the summer. And most summer jobs, you're bagging groceries at Publix supermarkets. So I could either bag groceries or I could have an office job with air conditioning.
Ooh.
And what I thought wouldn't really interest me all that much, which was publishing, I found that I really loved, and it was interesting and unique, and it just got my mind racing. So I finished the summer job, and then the next year they called me back and say, would you come back one more year? And they gave me even more responsibility. I worked in marketing, I worked in sales, I worked with editorial, creative, production, distribution. They had me in the warehouse. pick, packing, shipping boxes of books to customers. So I did it all.
Mhm.
And when I went off to college, I was interested in it, but I wasn't certain that I was going to make a livelihood, a career out of it. And then again, happenstance comes. A mentor of mine was sitting down with me. He knew about my background and he said, Adam, you need to create a publishing company for entrepreneurs and CEOs. He said, they have incredible stories, they have incredible knowledge, and you could be the Sherpa that helps them tell their story and create scale behind that story. And so, not having a better idea of what I was going to do with my life, I listened to that mentor. And in 2005, I started Advantage.
And tell us the difference in self-publishing. I mean, you all have a very unique model.
Yeah, so our model of publishing is what they would call hybrid or independent publishing. So there's traditional publishing like Random House and Simon and Schuster and HarperCollins. Then there is self-publishing where you literally do everything on your own. And our company is really the hybrid. It really takes the best of both worlds and brings those together. And what makes it even more incredible is we have built through joint ventures these incredible hybrid business publishing businesses with Forbes, with Entrepreneur, with South by Southwest. So we've created these incredible premium business publishing brands with these iconic media companies to really give entrepreneurs and CEOs the ultimate platform if they're going to write and publish a book.
Now, I remember when you acquired Forbes Publishing. Tell me that story. I mean, that was quite a move.
Well, there was probably more luck than skill involved, as is the case for most accomplishments in my life.
Oh, come on, Adam. Come
It's
on.
probably it's probably more luck. But what was really cool about this, I had a chance to meet a senior executive at Forbes, and we were sitting next to each other at an event. And I said to the executive, I said, I've got to ask you a question. You're the biggest business magazine in the world. I'm just curious, why don't you publish business books? And they laughed and they said to me, it's hard enough to make money selling magazines.
Mm.
The last thing we want to do is have to figure out how to make money selling books. And I said, well, let me tell you a bit about what Advantage does. And I told him all about our business. And I said, I have this crazy idea. What if we took the Advantage platform and we put the Forbes brand and the Forbes media ecosystem on top of that platform? 1 + 1 could equal 5. And they were intrigued and kind of leaned in. And after a year of intense courting and vetting and modeling and every other thing that you would do, finally we said, okay, let's start a business together, which was Forbes Books, which launched in 2016.
I got to tell you, I don't think there's any luck in that. I think that was Adam Witty's brain being really smart. And tell me the power of a name, because I think Forbes is also synonymous with, there's no one in business who hasn't heard of the name. Why was that important?
Yeah, I think this is really important, Elizabeth, especially for all of the entrepreneurs and small business owners that are listening. I really believe that brand is not a luxury. I believe that brand is a necessity.
Hmm.
And humans crave having relationships with brands that they admire, that they aspire to, that they know, they like, they trust, that are reputable. And Forbes is one of those brands that it's highly aspirational, right? It represents success. It certainly represents achievement. And it represents a level of, kind of sophistication. And it's very attractive to a lot of people, right? There are people that read Forbes that are startups with literally no money in their pockets. And there's people that read Forbes that are multi-billionaires.
Mhm.
So it's one of those brands that attracts all kinds of people. And the brilliance of it is that when you take a brand like Forbes and then you create and put below that, the business model of Advantage, which is this entrepreneurial hybrid publishing where the author owns the rights and they have control and the timeline is much faster and they own the lion's share of the back end of the revenue, which is what entrepreneurs want. It was like this magical combination. And so I just want to say one more time that for everybody listening, brands are powerfully important. And when you're starting and trying to scale your small business, don't put lip service to the power and importance of your brand because it can make or break your success.
So, Adam, you talk about success and luck a lot, but you were fired from one of your first jobs. What did you take from that?
Well, I learned a couple of great lessons. So the first business that I was in, I was a partner in a business. And, most people, they hear the word partner and they think, oh, 50-50, we're equal. And I thought we were equal, except technically he was 51 and I was
Uh-oh.
49. And when we got to an area where we disagreed and we really couldn't overcome that disagreement, he simply fired me and said, look, I'm 51, you're 49, so I win, you lose.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And literally he sent me a termination letter.
Oh my God.
So,
That's bad day.
when you have setbacks, they can either defeat you or they can fuel you. And in this case, it fueled me.
And look what you became. I'm so glad you were fired.
Yeah, well, the best thing that ever happened.
Right?
And by the way, I still have the termination letter.
Oh,
And I am gonna frame it
do
and
it.
have it in my library at my house.
Howdy, y'all. Elizabeth Gore here. Welcome back to The Big Idea. Here is more of my conversation with Adam Witty. Do you, when CEOs or entrepreneurs walk in and they want to tell their story, Adam, how much is the story about them personally versus the business itself? Because I think brand and identity and all that really comes together.
Yeah, so logic would tell you the book should be more about the business and what the business does and the problem that the business solves for people than it should be about the person. That's what a lot of people logically think. And I would tell you, people buy people. We
People
live in
by people.
we
Wow.
live in a human to human world. And despite all of the advances in technology, the craving of humans for personal connection will not end. It will endure. And we always believe, and we advocate to all of our authors, that your job as the CEO is to be the messenger, right? What your business does, that is the message, but you are the messenger of the message. And the more you can insert yourself into the book, the more personal, the more human it becomes, which is foundational to creating human emotive connection that every single consumer has with the brands and the companies they choose to do business with. And so we really believe, number one, that every entrepreneur and CEO should be the author of a book. We believe that you need to not be an operator who's trying to sell something. You need to be a teacher who's educating people. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that the CEO really has to embrace that they are the ambassador. They are the best ambassador of the brand. And they're the best that there ever will be, right? We look at iconic companies, whether it was Steve Jobs at Apple, whether it was Herb Kelleher at Southwest Airlines, whether it's Truett Cathy of Chick-fil-A, right? These were founders that just believed in what their business did so much that there was a level of authenticity, there was a level of trust, there was a level of passion that just resonated with consumers, and their business benefited in a big way because of it.
So this is an interesting time in the world, Adam, because you're talking about authenticity and people by people, but here we are in the revolution of AI. And I think one of the most talked about spaces with AI is writing, original writing. But you're bullish on AI. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, well, so I'm bullish on AI for a couple of reasons. First, and I think probably everybody watching this show, and I know you, Elizabeth, especially, we're optimists, right?
Hmm.
And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we,
Yeah. I
and
poop
so we,
rainbows. Like, let's
right,
go.
exactly. So we see this transformational technology, and we're like, well, there's going to be a lot more good than there is going to be bad. And I do fundamentally believe that. But as an optimist, I do think AI is going to have lots of positive consequences for humanity. The second thing that I'll say about AI is, look, it's coming, and the horse is out of the barn, and you're not stopping it. So you have a choice as an entrepreneur. You either make AI your friend or you make it your foe.
Mm.
And if you choose to make it your foe, I'm putting my money on AI, not on you. So I think like embrace it, right? Own it, take advantage of it, leverage it as a tool to help your small business grow. Now, as a publisher, the reason why I see AI as a good thing is twofold. Number one, we have a philosophy at Advantage. We don't use AI to make books. We use AI to make books better.
Mm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that AI is going to create even more need for human to human interaction, for authentic thought leadership. And I believe that creates a huge opportunity and an imperative for every business leader to really kind of double down on doing that for themselves.
So that's interesting. So you just came all the way back around to doubling down on people buying people.
100%.
That's really interesting. That juxtaposition is wild.
I don't think that the human need for connection will go away. In fact, I think AI will amplify it because as AI becomes more prevalent and more things in our life become transactional, in many ways kind of less human, that's going to create a need for us to have more of it because it's getting taken away in other places, right? I mean, if you look at how we work today, so many people work virtual, people work remote, in-person meetings are now done by Zoom. So that just means that when you're not at work, your need for in-person interaction is greater because your cup wasn't getting filled at work any longer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
So
So just move somewhere else.
right. I mean, it's so interesting. This reminds me of the saying you always say, the riches are in the niches. You're such a Southern boy. Tell me what that means.
Yeah. So when I was starting a business in 2005, and I started it from scratch, I had no investors, I had no money. I had a small home equity line of credit. Remember, this is 2005 on my condo. Okay.
Oof.
I financed the start of Advantage with a home equity line of credit on my condo.
Wow.
And a mentor said to me, Adam, you can't be all things to all people. You have to be the best at one thing, and you have to be the best at that one thing for one type of person.
Hmm.
And if you are, it will be easy to communicate with those people at scale. And I have never forgotten that. When you say, what does Advantage do? We build authority, we build thought leadership, we use books as platforms. Who do we serve? Entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business leaders. What type of content do we help create through books? Business, nonfiction, leadership, marketing, management, that very, very narrowly, right? And if you think about our brands, Forbes, Entrepreneur, South by Southwest, all those brands resonate very directly with those types of people. So for entrepreneurs and small business owners, many people try to be all things to everyone
Mm.
because they think the more people that I am good for, the more people will walk into my shop, go to my website, call my 800 number and buy. And I believe that if you're all things to all people, you're actually all things to no one.
Mm.
And that is the biggest mistake that I see small business owners make. I believe you need to be able to describe your target customer, articulate who they are, be able to say exactly what problem you solve. And the more narrow you can make it, the easier it is to actually reach them and get people to buy your products and services.
And is there a thought process that you would, I mean, what is your 3 pieces of advice for an entrepreneur to really say, okay, here is my niche? I mean, at Hello
Mhm.
Else, we boiled the ocean early on. We try to do everything for small business owners. And the same thing, once we finally said we're about access to capital, it just came so clear. But I'm curious your advice on how do I think that through, Adam?
Yeah, so the first thing, I would define my ideal target customer in detail, right? And, who are they? How old are they? What type of background do they have? What type of education do they have? Do they have kids? Are they a business owner? What's going on in their mind? What's keeping them up at night, right? So describe your target audience in detail. Then be very clear, what unique problem do you solve for that target customer? And why are you the better alternative from everything else that is out there? Okay. So that's one, and that's two. And then number three is obviously making sure you have a product or service that delivers on that promise, and then communicate only to those people, right? Um, Look, as entrepreneurs, we're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Mhm.
and anybody that will give us money, sure, we'll take it, right? Do you do this? Well, we kind of do this. Okay, sure, we'll take the job. I
Right.
see this all the time. And it's tempting because as entrepreneurs, we've got to pay the bills.
Yeah, cash flow is a tail that wags the dog, isn't it? Oof.
100%. So I'm not
I'm
telling
so
people
guilty of this, like, so guilty.
I'm not telling people to say no to people that will allow them to pay their rent or their mortgage. But what I am saying is the more disciplined you can become as to who you're for, who you're not for, and ultimately what is it that your company really does, the better. The last thing that I'll say, Elizabeth, is many companies, big and small, they again, they try to be all things to all people, right? So they want to have great service, they want to have great selection. They want to have great pricing. And the truth is, you can't do it all.
Mm.
And so if we look originally at Southwest Airlines in like the 70s and 80s, right? Their thing was low fares. And if you want low fares, you're not going to get to pick your own seat. You're not going to get any meals.
Yeah, Herb
You're
Kelleher was so famous of like, we're not going to feed people. Here's some
yeah.
peanuts. We're moving on.
That's right. And in order to be exceptional at one thing, you have to be willing to be bad at so many other things. And most entrepreneurs, they just can't bring themselves to accept that.
Right. That's so true, man. How has Advantage pivoted in the changing times of publishing?
Yeah, right. So most publishers, they make money one way, selling books. And most of that money is made by selling books on Amazon or in bookstores. Our business, remember, we flipped the economics of the industry, right? And with hybrid publishing, the author is hiring our company to help them develop, build, publish their book, and build their thought leadership, which means, number one, we make money on every book we publish, whether it sells one copy or a million copies. The second thing that's most important is that for most entrepreneurs and CEOs, they don't need to get rich off of selling copies of their book. They want their book to open up doors for them, right?
Mm.
Whether it's being the keynote speaker at their industry convention, whether it's attracting leads that turn into new clients and customers for their business, whether it's getting booked on media, podcasts, TV shows, radio, what have you. So their ROI are the doors that the book creates, not the number of copies that are sold. That was a great pivot for us. That's allowed this transference from offline to online, print to digital, to be largely non-effective to us.
Uh-huh.
The last thing I'll say about this, look, change is inevitable. I always say if you don't like change, you'll dislike irrelevance more.
Ooh. Wait, say
And
it one more time, Adam. That was just do that again. We all need to hear this again.
so I say this all the time, and this is so important to every entrepreneur. If you don't like change, you'll dislike irrelevance more. And, we live in a world that is rapidly changing. AI is speeding up the pace of change. And when it comes to that, I think the best entrepreneurs, look, they're not the ones that are necessarily creating the avalanches, but they're the ones that know how to snowboard those avalanches better than everybody else.
Hmm. So, I really appreciate on the mistakes we make and hear that you were honest about it. We talk about our dirty unicorns. So the biggest mistakes we made that we can all learn from. Can you give us one of yours?
So I will give you my piece of advice and then tell you how that applies to me. Entrepreneurs are really good at addition and horrible at subtraction.
Ooh, okay.
Entrepreneurs are optimists. We see everything going according to plan. Entrepreneurs see the vision and they see the line of how we get there. My piece of advice to every entrepreneur, every small business owner, surround yourself with pessimists.
Ooh, the black
Now,
hat.
here's what I mean. I mean that you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to be creative. You need to be a visionary. You need to dream big dreams. But oftentimes we don't have contingency and fallback plans when those dreams don't quite materialize how we think they're going to materialize. And so it's always good to have these truth tellers surrounding you. Now, that doesn't mean that you become a pessimist yourself. Um, and I like to say at times, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just an optimist with experience.
Ooh, an optimist with experience. T-shirt.
But entrepreneurs need to have those truth tellers around them because I many times have started a new product line. I have started a couple of other businesses, and I saw nothing but the possibility, and it didn't quite pan out as I had hoped. I have easily seven figures of mistakes that I've made, whether it's investing in a startup or a small business or trying to start something else on my own. I mean, I've got a long list of failures.
We haven't
And
heard yet someone monetize their mistakes. Seven figures of in dirty unicorns. I
oh
love it,
my gosh,
Adam.
I got so many dirty unicorns. It's not funny. But the way that you at least lessen that or bring it into check is by having these truth tellers, these pessimists, around you that can at least challenge your thinking and say, well, what if it doesn't work out? What's your plan B? And if you don't have a good answer for them, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
Mhm. Well, that is, your seven-figure dirty unicorn is really good. Hey, our big idea question today is how can you preserve and actually grow an industry during disruption? And I think publishing specifically is so interesting because, in-store books and then Amazon and now AI, I mean, and you've just threaded all the way through it. I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I actually think that great disruption is the greatest opportunity for entrepreneurs. And the reason that entrepreneurs will never go out of fashion is because we have the ability to do things and think in a way that big companies just aren't capable of, right? And man, we can move fast. We can execute. So when I look at our industry, which many would argue is perhaps the oldest industry, in the world, if not the oldest, certainly really close, right? And you look at the proliferation of digital, now the proliferation of AI, like who actually reads books anymore, who really buys books anymore, who even cares about books. I do believe that books are durable. And just as
Mm.
books have been with us for hundreds of years, I believe that they will be with us for hundreds of years into the future. And I will ask you this question. If you walk into anyone's home, or certainly anyone who's had some success and achieved financial success in their life, one of the centerpieces in their home is their bookshelf.
Hmm.
And on their bookshelf, they proudly share with their friends and family what's interesting to them. What have they read and what are they reading? Then, if you go into any city, whether it's New York City, where you are today, or whether it's Charleston, South Carolina, where I am today, the most valuable piece of real estate in the entire city is usually the public library.
Really?
Look at it. Think about where we are in New York City, right? The center of the city is the New York Public Library, right?
Oh.
In Charleston, one block off of the center of the city is the public library, and it's half a block big, right? And so I just believe that books are these tomes of knowledge that we have the unique responsibility to pass on to the next generation. So arguably, successive generations have a better life than we do, right? I mean, every parent wants their child to have a better life than they did. But the only way that you do that is by passing on what you know to others. I've always believed true wealth is not passing along money, it's passing along your wisdom.
Hmm.
And so for that reason, I actually feel very good about the future of books. For our business in particular, we're in the business of helping entrepreneurs and CEOs build thought leadership, really stand out from their competitors, build authentic connections with their audience. And in the world of AI, as I said earlier, I think that becomes even more important.
Absolutely. Hey, one of the things that you've always had behind your desk is a plane. And one of our earliest conversations is how important you becoming a pilot and following that dream was to you. And first tell me about that, and then I wanna know how you threaded that back into your business.
So I am a pilot. I'm a commercial pilot. I have my seaplane rating, my instrument rating. I fly all the time. I fly everywhere for business, for personal stuff, and it is really my one and only hobby as
Mhm.
well. When I learned to fly some 10 plus years ago, number one, I love to learn. And number two, I was intrigued by this idea of like having to learn a new language.
Hmm.
If I have a regret when I was younger, I didn't learn a second language. I really wish I would have done that, and I didn't, but it's never too late. And so I thought, well, to be a pilot, I mean, if you've ever heard pilots speak to air traffic control, it literally sounds like they are speaking another language. And I said, I'm going to learn how to fly. And so I just slowly started applying myself to it. It was a lot of written work, it was a lot of practical work in a simulator, then actually in an airplane up in the sky. And what I loved about it was the discipline that it required of me to get to a private pilot's license, an instrument rating, a commercial rating. And if you talk to any pilot that is worth their salt, they'll tell you, you never stop learning, like
Mhm.
never stop learning until the day you stop flying.
Right.
And and that is what I actually love about it. So for me, it's a hobby, it's joyful. Of course, it can be very practical and useful as well. But the most important thing and how it relates to entrepreneurship and starting and scaling a small business, hopefully into a very large business, is it's discipline, right? That we all have to have a level of discipline for ourselves and then ultimately our teams and our companies. And what you go through to become a pilot teaches you those skills, reinforces those skills as well.
Adam, you are the consummate teacher and learner, both. I've learned so much from you. Hundreds of CEOs have learned to be thought leaders in their own space. And thank you for teaching us today on the big idea. You are amazing and we adore you. And congrats on Advantage. Howdy, y'all. I am so excited. I have an extra special guest today that you're going to want to hear because you might get cash flow out of this. We are so excited to introduce Jody Van Arsdale. He is the Small Business Tax Director at H&R Block. Jody, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm excited and delighted to be here.
Hey, tell me before we get too deep in the weeds why you love small business.
Well, although I am the director of small business tax at H&R Block, I've had a handful of companies that I've started with a business partner. So I've been a small business entrepreneurial resource, and it's very passionate. I'm so passionate about this space.
And is there a particular, I mean, this is like asking who of your favorite kids, but is there a type of small businesses that you love the most?
I would say, yeah, when I started in the small business space, my business partner and I, we jumped into franchise. So we were a little
Okay.
afraid, right? We wanted to know an operating model, and it was a great business. But what I was passionate about is when we had an idea and we built it ground up, like the concept of starting from nothing and taking it somewhere. That was so exciting. It was a little more frightening because you don't have
Yeah.
that operating model that's kind of cookie cutter that says if you do X, you get Y, right? So it was a little more intimidating.
I want to go back to again, tell me the benefit in buying small business stock.
Yeah, so there's really two benefits. Like if I think about it as Jody Van Arsdale, the everyday person that doesn't own a business, I can invest in my community. I can invest in the people that we've talked about, right? And after 5 years, I'm allowed to receive 100% relief on the gains of that stock.
Uh-huh.
The exciting part for me as well is the benefits to the small business community, right? It's a way for them to increase cash flow. It's a way for them to go to that next operating model and then strengthen their business P&L. As we've talked about, like cash is king, right?
Right.
And it's hard to get to cash when you're a small business owner. You're worried about everything, logistics, operations, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's a really good way to allow people to support their small business while also growing their stock portfolio.
There is not a business owner alive who's not worried about cash flow. And, the other thing I kind of like is if I could have Jody not just buying my stock, but you advising me and being part of my small business family, right? That's also, a lot of people think of big venture or other things. And to actually get someone in my community who cares about me, they're invested in me. I mean, it's super exciting. Tell me about what are the requirements?
Yeah. So for the requirements, currently through July 4th of 2025, you have to hold that stock for 5 years. It has to be a C corporation. Their gross assets must be 50 million or less.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the recipient of the original issue, which means I'm not buying it from a second party, right? I have to be an original issue from the small business. And I cannot sell back more than a de minimis amount of my stock within 2 years.
Got it. Got it. So I like that because you're sticking around, right? You're helping this business owner, but then there's just so many incentives to do this. And you once owned a small business, right?
Yes, I did.
I mean,
A
is this
couple of them.
something that you would have cherished as a small business owner?
Without a doubt, I will tell you, there were definitely points in times when I was borrowing from friends and family to make payroll in some of those harder months. Unfortunately for small business, you don't just come out of the gate generating the revenue that you want to.
We all
And
wish for
so
that.
access to cash was critical along our journey.
Jody, why was this rule originally implemented? Because it's so exciting.
Yeah, so it was really implemented for one, I as an investor in the small business community, it allows me to infuse the small business, if you will. But I also get, if I meet the requirements, I get 100% relief from the capital gains. So effectively, the rise in my stock, I get to keep. So it's a great investment.
Well, and it's people literally investing in each other, right? Which is the coolest thing, right? I mean, these are your coffee shops. They could be your dry cleaners, your local grocer. I mean, think about your neighbors here. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I love how you said that, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of these are your neighbors who are starting a business. So you're getting behind that person leading the business, but then you're also getting the opportunity to understand the business, like what business model they're in, and you get to help infuse that small business in your neighborhoods. I love it.
That's why we're glad to have you here to explain a few really cool opportunities that have come out of the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, I would tell you the biggest thing. So as I alluded to earlier, right, the holding period. One of the requirements on the current legislation, if you will, was the holding period. You had to have that stock for 5 years before you could get the 100%. So it was a big ledge, if you will. You had to own
Mm.
it for the entire 5 years. The new law from One Big Beautiful Bill Act came out, and if you purchase any stock, business stock after July 4th, they've now done ledges, shelves, if you will. So if you hold that stock for 3 years and it's seen explosion of growth, you can save 50% on that capital gains, if you will.
Wow.
4 years, it's 75%, and it's still 100 at 5 years. But what that allows me to do is redeploy those gains if I want to do investments in other small businesses or whatever I'd like to do with those funds.
Well, Jody, I am so grateful for all this advice. And I'm so excited that there's this opportunity for all of us. Thank you for coming on the big idea and teaching both the business owners and the potential investors, acquirers, how to do this.
Well, I appreciate the time, and like I said, very passionate in this space. So I love what you're doing, and I love the segment. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, buddy. At the end of each episode, I like to give a shout out to a small business who is doing amazing work. Today, I'd like to shout out one important to Adam, Small Nation. Founded by Adam's friend Jason Duff, Small Nation helps turn around small towns, businesses, and small business investors to help them succeed. Find out more at smallnationstrong.com. Thank you to Adam and Jody for joining the show, and thank all of you for joining us. We hope you've learned a lot. This has been The Big Idea from Yahoo Finance. Please make sure to scan the QR code below to follow Yahoo Finance podcast, or check us out at The Big Idea wherever you get your podcasts. You can also come say howdy to me at any of my social channels at Elizabeth Gore USA. I'm Elizabeth Gore, and as my grandma always said, hold your head up high and give them hell. See you next time.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.